Sugar City 90.3 for Fear Nor Favor.
Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKitts.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear Nor Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM. Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear Nor Favor.
Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKitts.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear Nor Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Evening and welcome to Fear in Our Favor. Tonight we're going to be looking at a few topics. Some are very topical in our region, and we'll need to look at one or two things with respect to after persons would have won their cases, and what ought to be done. So let us look at case in point. When there is an allegation of a crime, police are supposed to do a thorough investigation. And if they find themselves with information that would call for an arrest, they will go to the magistrate court to get a magistrate to sign a warrant of arrest. And then the matter goes on, goes on, goes on. Then it would go to a trial. And if the person loses that case for whatever reason, and he feels as though he is still innocent, then he can appeal, because there are many reasons why persons could lose a case at the first trying court. He could appeal to the appeal court, and the better competent judges would look at the whole procedure and look at the grounds on which the person is appealing, and as such would make their decision at the end of the appeal hearing. And if the person loses his appeal, because you can appeal conviction and sentence, or you could appeal sentencing alone. And then, of course, you could appeal conviction alone. Because once the conviction is quashed, automatically the sentence is quashed as well. And it is only fair when you would have disrupted someone's life, family life, academic life, occupational life, that upon winning that his case, he should be compensated appropriately. There are some persons who work for government, and if they are arrested and charged for an offense, then they receive half pay until the matter is over. If they lose the case, then the remaining half pay would not be due to them. However, if they win, then they would have to be paid the balance of the half pays. So if you had 2 years before the case, that means that you would have gotten just 1 year's worth of salary. That means upon winning the case, you would get your other year of the salary. Now, there are persons who might have been arrested, charged, maybe would have lost the first case, got incarcerated while awaiting the appeal, and when the appeal comes through, then they would go and do what they have to do, whether to a lawyer represent themselves. Now, if you're working for yourself and that is the case, there's no way you could get any half pay because you're working for yourself and you're incarcerated. And that is most unfortunate. So therefore, when somebody goes through those sort of disruptive moments in their lives and happen to be adjudged not guilty, then they should be compensated. I had a situation and I appealed the matter. And the conviction and the sentence, they were quashed by the Caribbean Appeal Court, by justices of the appeal at the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Now, I think at that time, they had Mr. Chaitan. He came here to assist, presumably, I don't know what his claim to fame was really, but somebody brought him here for whatever reason to try and assist us with the crime situation. So there was a gathering over at Marriott. Many persons went. Some persons gave their point of view, some listened, some took notes, and then they had breakaway sessions with appropriate individuals. At that particular meeting, I met the AG at the time, who was Josie Byron, Vincent Josie Byron. And we had a discussion, and he told me then it was no need for me to go through the court system because they understood quite well what would have transpired. They understood the outcome from the appeal court, and they would sort things out. He invited me to come and see him, and I went there by him twice. Then on the third time, he put me on to the Solicitor General to have a discussion with her and to look at my claim that I put in to the government. And then I think I met with the Solicitor General, Miss Bullen, twice. And then there was a gentleman. He's not really a lawyer, but he has a law degree, and he worked along with Miss Bullen. Anyhow, time was protracted. The outcome I wanted did not materialize, or was not materializing. Brother Nabu, while Mr. Byron, Josie Byron, was on Patch's show, Shade Talk, on Win FM, sometime, I think was in July, the 22nd of July. Brother Nabu called him, and the quotation I'm seeing here on SKN Vibes, the caller said, I know he had a case and he won the case and appeal. And it was some settlement with this administration for the amount of $700 and something thousand. But Teacher Byron, for the past 3 years, the brother has been waiting for his money. And Teacher Byron, can you tell me, can you assure me and the rest of the Federation that Brother Nital will get his money in the next 30 days? Because from what I was told, not by Brother Nital, I was reliably informed that it's just up to you, Brother Byron. When asked by the host if such a case was brought forward by Nital, the AG Byron responded in the negative, saying, I am not certain what he is talking about. I know that Mr. Nital had a matter in which he had a conviction in one court and had appealed. And in the appeal, his conviction had been overturned. And I am not aware that there had been any question of him having to receive there were any judgment or damages in $700,000. And I need to state that the whole justice system will collapse if every time somebody goes to court and is found not guilty on such a criminal matter, if the state has to pay damages, because the justice system will grind to a halt. That was the most ridiculous statement I would have ever heard from somebody in the AG's office, the Attorney General. So police must not investigate properly. They must not try the cases properly, disrupt people's lives. And when they would have been found not guilty, you just expect their life to go on like that. They're supposed to catch up like that. After not receiving an income for so many months, almost 2 years. He's saying it's not everybody. And I need to state that the whole justice system will collapse if every time somebody goes to court and is found not guilty on such a criminal matter, if the state has to pay damages. So if he said 10 persons did that, he's saying that the 10 persons should not be paid damages. In other words, they would pick out some. But that's surgical discrimination. Because if 1 to 10 won the cases, you're going to pick out 4, 5, 6, or 7 and leave the other 6, 5, 4, 3 not being compensated. That cannot make sense. It cannot make sense. And people talk like that because either they're being helped by the administration and feel like they want to save the administration from paying people who got rightful claim to what they're asking for. And it is rather unfortunate. Because to make that statement would indicate that you'll pick some. And to pick some and not the others, that is what you call surgical discrimination. I have never heard such garbage by an attorney general. I don't really know if I could say attorney general, but that's the name of the office. You know, and I just feel for the time that he spent there, it is my opinion that he had a failing grade. Between what the chief of police was doing back then and the attorney general, non-judicious decisions, a lot of persons made claims against the government after they won the cases. You just can't go about and lock up people like that and then think that you're not going to compensate them. Cases that were supposed to be negotiated. Cases that were supposed to be negotiated. The awful decision was made to go and contest those cases and happen to pay out more than they would have paid out had the cases been negotiated. And for the then AG to indicate that he could not remember such a thing, he was being dishonest. I called in on the program and I let him know that I'm disappointed in him. And he was being really dishonest. And I told him that I would deal with him on my personal radio program. After that call, I got so many calls. Tens of calls, maybe scores, asking me not to take the path that I would have indicated. Persons high up. High up. And I decided, okay, let me leave it and see what's going to happen. Then even the late Tapley Seaton, God bless his soul, would have indicated, because I went and see him several times. And he did engage the then Prime Minister Timothy Harris and indicated to him that they should pay the monies owing to me. And at one time, the then Prime Minister indicated to me that the Attorney General would have, the Governor General would have spoken to him, and it is just Juicy Byron who was holding up things. And it's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Some people feel that if they prevent the government from spending monies, they would occupy the office for a longer period of time. But then they create a disgruntled community because nobody could compensate you for your freedom that was taken away. Nobody can compensate you as the breadwinner of your family was taken away from the opportunity to make money to support them. Nobody can compensate you for the social embarrassment you had to go through. Because as much as you win a case, 1 out of every 10 petitions would still indicate that that is the person who committed crime A. Or maybe 1 out of every 5. That is how our culture operates. But nothing wrong with that. People got their own perception. They could say what they want. But you have a right to be compensated. And I thought that it was rather ridiculous. Because here you had the Gigi and the Prime Minister. And you had a single individual who they did not pay much concern to, criticized his way of doing things, criticized his incompetence. And you're going to tell me that the two heads of state, Governor General and the Prime Minister, if the Prime Minister then wanted to do what he had to do, Juicy couldn't be any stumbling block. But you see, many things happen. And a lot of people got through with a lot of things. I heard the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas ask a question in Parliament. Up to now, I'm still waiting on the answer. Still waiting on the answer. But when people are offered protection by the ministers who they support and on which side they would sit, our country could be incrementally degraded. You're supposed to have high standards. High standards. And don't do things from your own subjective point of view. The law is there. And it was rather unfortunate. I have always wanted to deal with this particular issue. But I wanted to make sure that I do it in a pleasant way, because many persons are listening. I have students who are listening. I have family members. I have friends, children. As a matter of fact, before I opened the program tonight, I was talking to my daughter, Newrish Nital, and she asked me what was up for discussion tonight. And I told her. And she said, Daddy, you sure you want to take that to the airways? I said, yes. Because he took to the airways in Pachisho and denied having any kind of conversation with respect to that. Any kind of conversation, and he knew that he was lying. I waited years before I made up my mind to address this particular issue. And this is only round one, I know we have a decent PM and a far better Attorney General. Far, far, far better. I even tell people sometimes that I feel that 7 years that Unity was in at the helm, we were 7 years without an Attorney General. And I still hold on to that. Somebody who was over his head, overwhelmed, in my opinion, in that position. Some people gave a negative F grade. But as a teacher, of course I could have found a grade to give. But like I said, it was like we did not have an AG for that period of time, in my opinion. And a lot of people got disadvantaged. And sometimes when you have prime ministers, they are in control. You could shuffle, you could do this, you could do that. And you let people make those kind of decisions. Is that you're complicit in the decision making? Yeah, how could you allow such decision to be made? And word got around. Many persons were unhappy. So even before the breaking up, the eventual breaking up, what led to the eventual breaking up of the unity administration, root was in the making long time. Long time. Nobody would like to see somebody who was really there for them not get the rightful treatment that they ought to have got. And I'm happy that at least I have the ears of persons who are more passionate and have more compassion with respect to persons getting their justice. And inasmuch as persons might want to label the current Attorney General how they feel they should label him, I think he's many folds better than the one we had before. Many, many, many folds. As a matter of fact, he was the person who represented the government in the appeal case that I had against them. And after everything was done, I stood on the outside there and had discussions with several legal minds. And he was one of the persons there. He congratulated me as well. No hard feeling. It's an adversarial environment. And, I just wish that it never had to happen that way. But I could become a little more spicy. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. Just wanted to really come to the public and let them know that the gentleman was really lying. I think that I saw a video clip where Curtis Cook attacked him up the park with some discussion they had. And he indicated to him, I do not wish to hear anything from you, Mr. Byron. Like Nital said, you're a real, dishonest, and lying person. And he was right there. He had a chance to defend himself. People do things for various reasons. And it was rather unfortunate because the good gentleman used to teach me history at Bastia High School. Of course, I was one of the few persons from his class who got a distinction in history. He did a good job. And I really thought that the things that were influencing his mind then, I think his mind was just nebulous, clouded, and wasn't certain what he should have said. And that is just a message for other persons. Instead of lying your way through a situation to give a certain perception to the general public, indicate that you would have to become more au fait and au courant about the particular matter, and you'll get back to them at a later stage. We have to be careful when we are in the public's domain or in the earshot of people and the things that we say that could come back to haunt us. And I did listen to some prominent persons who had asked me back then not to follow that trajectory. But this is 2024. And it is time that matters of this nature be settled. When you have better understanding persons, not person pretending that they're there for you and would push your agenda, only to do nothing in the end. But we would see. Now, an aspect that I want to touch on is the fact that as a matter of fact, a gentleman was supposed to be here with me tonight, but he had a rough day, and he called me maybe an hour ago indicating that he'll prefer to come on next week because he's rather tired. And I told him, okay. But this is a gentleman who would have been given a judgment from the court. He was accused of committing a murder. And eventually, the DPP, the prosecution, had to nullify the case. And he was awarded $700 and something thousand, increasing at the rate of 6% per annum. So right now, that claim is about $900 and something thousand. Government is not too happy with the quantum, but they would have shown willingness to negotiate the quantum and put this thing behind them. About 4 years now, that judgment would have been made. And they would have to abide. They would have to hope that, you see, some people feel like when you wrong other people and you humiliate them, subject them to public ridicule, and whatever compensation package come their way. Because when you have somebody incarcerated, it's $500 per day. That person must be compensated. And I think I heard him on Freedom explaining that he spent 1,572 days. 1,572 days incarcerated. And as such, if you even do the calculations on 1,572 times 500, that alone is $786,000. The pain and suffering and disruption and thing that an individual would have to go through. I taught that gentleman, and usually all of those who I taught in prison, I taught them how to teach. So he is a very effective teacher. Everybody was happy for him. Some students went home and brag about the quality of a teacher he is. And you had a student went back to school and said to him, grandmother said, you're a criminal, you kill a man and you went jail. You see, you can't erase that. But if you are compensated appropriately, you could ignore the noise. because your therapy is your compensation. So people could claim, say what they want to say. And he would have to go through a lot of social embarrassment, even after he would have gotten his money. So I don't know why we hesitate to compensate persons. You suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, you have to be strong. Strong, and you have to have a family who could understand. Because you have to explain to them what happened. And once you have an intelligent family, they would align the ducks and they would understand. And don't care how much they might ask you to let it rest. You can't let it rest. You know how much knocked out you'd have gotten when you were not able to generate an income. You know how your children suffered because you were not there to assist them with assignments and guide them. You know how your family would have lost weight because they were worrying about you. And you cannot get a visit maybe once a month, once every 2 months. Come on, man. That is why members of the society could be so disgruntled and sometimes just flip because everybody taking their suffering for granted. And sometimes you have persons who know you better and ought to have done something about it and did absolutely nothing, but we're just focusing on the closer ties and associations. It is even more hurtful. Even more hurtful. We have to be fair to everyone. The same justice system that would follow protocols and have you arrested, charged, or whatever. It's the same justice system when they get an order or the negotiation to compensate somebody. They should do it. You don't know when you're going to be the boiling over point. You can't frustrate people because not only them, because they would have spread their story. And the friends them know the facts. And if you take advantage and disadvantage somebody who was in the right, that can permeate our society. And you got a lot of angry persons around as a result of certain things. Can't do that. We should not do that. You see, but sometimes, if you remove that protection that is afforded or was afforded, had that been removed, it might have been a different story. And people might have been able to empathize because they might have found themselves in a similar position. And they might have been able to spread the gospel and encourage people to hasten to compensate others. I'll keep it like that. I'll continue to use my euphemisms to talk about certain things, but the day would come when it would be told how it's supposed to be told, and in the rustic and raw way. Because some people need to be made to understand what they did. There's a young man who's supposed to be calling me tonight. He's over in Newrish, some Dexter Somerset, to indicate a situation that he would have been going through as well. Can't get job, can't even get a bank account. So I'm hoping that he remembers the number. If he's listening, the number is 466-0903. It is Sugar City FM 90.3. And You listening? Just call him. Dexter Somerset. And I invited him because Shahid Williams was supposed to be here with me. And I indicated to him that he can call in. Since he's in Nevis, I might not be able to physically make it to the show. He can call in. Another aspect I want to look at is I believe that inmates should be allowed to vote. And I'm very strong on that. I have read about the debate all over the world. Various countries would have taken some positions. And it seems as if it is split down the middle 50-50. Some in favor, equal number, not in favor. But if somebody is incarcerated, that person is placed there for safe keeping. You have to look after that person physically, physiologically, mentally. So if you have an administration, most of the times the present administration might not want to allow inmates to vote, simply because they feel that all inmates would be against the current administration. Many of them went there before the current administration went into power. Some went after they got into power. But programs and policies would dictate who the inmate, because people leave family outside. Many persons went down to the court with the intention of being taken from the courthouse to HMP, and their whole life became disrupted. Their family members, children they used to look after, parents, grandparents. They never got an opportunity to put things in order. They might have had a farm out there working. And they listen to the various talk shows. They listen to the various presentations that ministers and their agents, the presentation that they would make. So if you're incarcerated and you have a government coming up with a good plan for agriculture, and you hear the two sides, because the opposition would be over there. I mean, some people just oppose for opposing's sake, but some genuine oppositions will let you know what they would do in the agricultural sector, what they will do in the tourism sector, what they will do in various sectors. And when you do your comparative analysis and you realize who would be better to help your children and family and friends and community move along, you would go and vote for that person. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that. Inmates also know who opposing just for opposing's sake. And sometimes they're not happy about that. So you want to give them some pipeline dreams, pie in the sky. They would know, and they would not vote for those persons outside of power. Or they might feel somebody in power might not be worthy of being re-elected. So I believe that we should really allow inmates to vote. Inmates got to be taken care of whilst incarcerated. You had a period of time when the prison did not see a doctor for months. You could imagine that? Could not see a doctor for months. Well, it's people in there take animals and stones. People look after animals better than that. They take them to the vet. If they can't take them, they call the vet. And you tell me you have people incarcerated and months pass without a medical doctor going to see them. And matters worse, some of them got mental issues. And it so happened that Dr. Joe, I went to the gym one day and I met his other half. And I told her to tell him that I would like to have a conversation with him. And he called me. And I indicated to him that people feel like it is him who's supposed to be attending to inmates. But it wasn't that. Dr. Joe was not assigned to look after the inmates. But out of the goodness of his heart, he went over there and he was paying, he's an internist, and he was paying attention to those people with non-communicable diseases. And he went there and really put in some work with them. I think that he even got the opportunity to address the prison population. And I think that was a rather excellent move, compassionate move by the then non-Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Joe. You see, some doctors feel like it is below them to go and offer services to inmates. Some of them don't even want to go down the Cardigan home. They feel that it is belittling for them to exercise or carry out the services down at the Cardigan home. And I think that, if my memory serves me correctly, that Dr. Joe would have done some work down there at the Cardigan home with pride. So he would have always put himself in a position to provide services in areas where a lot of other persons felt as if it was below them to go and do that. And we have to understand, if you're going to have an administration and months passed without a doctor visiting the incarcerated, once the inmates them could vote, nobody would vote to upkeep that. They have reasons not to put back that person in power. They're not looking about the inmates who are placed there for safekeeping. No vitamins. Well, they could say now they're getting vitamins. Vitamins were not allowed, they were not given. And I can recall Marcella Liebert came there with a group of persons, and the matter was put to her. Let them know that the youngsters them studying and they need to get a diet supplemented. And she did supply some multivitamins. I think that's when things started shaping up nicely. And the guys them felt it, they could have stayed up and studied longer. But why they do not want inmates to vote? The funny thing about it, let us suppose you had two persons who were jointly charged, and they were both granted bail, but one could not secure the person to come and put up whatever to bail him, and the other one stayed in prison. Let us further suppose that election took place while the one who got bail was on the outside. The one who got bail and was on the outside, he would vote. And the one who was incarcerated, who was jointly charged with him, cannot vote. Well, that sounds a bit idiosyncratic to me. Because the two of them, when they go back to the court, they would ask them to take the prisoner dock. In other words, let the prisoner sit in his dock. Two of them are described as prisoners. One incarcerated, one got bail. One did not get bail because he couldn't get the surety them to come and do what they have to do. What's the difference between the two of them? Why people on remand who are not prisoners? Why people on remand awaiting trial are not allowed to vote? Why? Remanders got certain privileges. You could get food from outside. You have not been found guilty, you're not being convicted. So you have to be treated as if you're innocent. You don't have to put on the jail uniform. You put on your own clothes. Put on your own clothing. So why not allow them to vote? Sometimes the condition of the prison would need improvement. Maybe a particular administration might not pay it the attention that it needs to be paid. They might want to vote for a change to see if things would come better. At one time, the prison food was horrible. Horrible. And persons back then, if they had an opportunity to vote, they might have voted out that administration that is not looking after the health properly, because they are there for safe keeping. The food quality at the prison started to improve. I don't know what the condition is now, but you had persons there baking and creating some variety of meals for the inmates. To the extent that many officers save money by eating the food from around by the kitchen that's supposed to be for the inmates. I believe that that is against the law. But many of them save money. That's just to show you the quality of food that they might be getting right now. I believe in that law book that it is the superintendent, the person in charge of the prison, who's supposed to sample the food, eat it, whatever. But you have a whole lot of officers who save a lot of money monthly by eating maybe 3 meals from behind the kitchen. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. There were even allegations about people taking home lunch, depending on what was actually served. You had servers, you had officers taking food out of the prison. Well, if the inmates had to be shortchanged and they feel, well, they should vote against that. Nothing wrong with it. And the fact that you are helpless because you're incarcerated, you want to make sure that you put the best possible team of individuals to be at the helm with respect to administration of the country. Because you are helpless. And you want to know that these people are capable of looking after your family and community whilst you are away incarcerated. I think that is something that we should seriously try to allow. Seriously try to allow. Because elections could be coming up. And you have someone who been incarcerated for indebtedness. So that person was struggling to get ends meet just before they came in, and that is why it led to the eventuality of them being incarcerated. I mean, even though your indebtedness took you to prison, you can't vote. So what it is it that prisoners cannot vote? Because you got prisoners on the outside, those who on bail they're considered to be prisoner by the court. Or the key fact, the acid test is that you are incarcerated. I think we need to get it right and level the playing field. Put a polling station inside there. And maybe you could allow all who vote. And if you have 8 constituencies, you just divide. If you had 400, let's say 100 persons voted for Labour, or let's say 80 persons voted for Labour, '40 persons voted for the opposition. You could take those 80 votes, divide them by 8, and give whoever running for Labour 10 votes each. Can be done that way. And if the opposition, whoever running for the opposition, you give them 5 votes each because they got 40. 18 to 40, that's 5. You give them 5 votes each. You don't have to get too technical and say, well, nobody in there from Sandy Point, or nobody in there from, but you got to go Nevis too, because you have a combination of Kitty regions incarcerated. If for whatever reason you maybe reach here by accident on some boat or whatever, those are the persons who would not be allowed to vote. But once you have the right to vote here, you should vote, and they just split up the votes. Even if you feel more came out of one constituency and more should be allotted, just for the sake of getting it done, you just split them equally and that's it. We cannot go on like that. We have intelligent, very intelligent people incarcerated, and they could make properly informed decisions. You have a lot of inmates who more academically qualified than a lot of people who have voted out here. So why they shouldn't be allowed to vote? You have people in prison with 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 subjects. And you tell me that you should not allow those persons to vote? It's not like once ago where you go prison without subjects and you come back out without subjects, back to square one. You are very intelligent people. One of the best math person maybe in the entire Caribbean is a young man from St. Paul, Glenroy Smitten, Big Smoke. Could match equally with anybody from anywhere in the region when it comes to mathematics. Oh boy, don't talk about Wycliffe. Don't talk about Wycliffe Liebert. I don't see anybody out here could touch him when it comes to English. Can't touch him when it comes to English. And I could almost pick an inmate for every single subject. And he'll be right up there, whether at Cape or at CSEC. I could remember when they were really mashing up those CSEC exams. Those guys told the invigilator, must tell CX stop trying to embarrass them and send more difficult exams. Remy Gums, like Wycliffe Liebert. Those guys just had English down pat. I can recall when Remy got a 2 in English. He came and he said, Optimum Pedagogue, I'm comfortable with a 2 in English. I want to do it over. And even though it was a repeat, and the expense had to be borne by whoever then took care of the expenses, we allowed him to do it. And he got a distinction. You have persons who are very up to date with the law. Arctic Gillard from Sandy Point. He has an associate degree in law. Antoine Adams from Keys has an associate degree in economics. Vincent Foy of Market Street fame, Freeman's Village, he has an associate degree in economics. You know, and the list goes on and on and on. So those guys can make decisions. And I think it is time that it is reconsidered, giving the scholastic aptitude of inmates of current time and give them a chance to vote. And I think that we will start moving places. I'm really looking forward to have. I used to organize debates, and the qualities were extremely high. I would like to organize a debate with respect to this free movement of people throughout the region, CARICOM, and whoever wants to be in favor, they can be. But inmates then would be against, and we would like that debate to be televised. I don't know if I can get in touch with some government authorities or even CFBC students, and let's have a debate over that. We really would like something like that. I'll have Wycliffe and maybe Glenroy Smitten to be the 2 members to represent HMP. There are many others, because I could rest on those 2 and pick up another 2. And then I could rest on those 4 and pick up another 2. I would just like that to happen and get it televised, so people could get an idea the quality of persons we have. And my reason for saying that, I think that it is time they make some adjustments in the laws to allow inmates to be able to vote. Let us take a break and we'll be back.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar Soda 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM. Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar Soda 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Good evening. Welcome back to Fear No Favor. And I'm hoping that that gentleman who was supposed to call will call. But in the meantime, I want to bring something to the public. I keep on talking about that situation with our cricket association. I happened to take a break and saw some cricket on the television. And I listened. Then I heard them talking about Warner Park. So I said, we have cricket at Warner Park. I had absolutely no idea. So I said, maybe it's me then. But I spoke to a few persons and they indicate that they were not even aware that there was cricket at Warner Park. Some female cricket. So I don't know what else can be done with this cricket administration in getting word out. You know, maybe they need to get somebody to go around like how Reggie used to go around, God bless his soul. And let people know. Or maybe they feel that they might not make much money from those kind of matches. But we have, I think that the game I was looking at was a replay. I think Azara Claxton, she played in that match. We didn't score too many runs, but I think she made 25 not out. At one time, I think there were 20-something for 4, and they took up the score to about 70-something. She made 25 not out. That was the top score. And I would have really liked to go and see that particular match in which she was playing. Leeward Island against somebody. Remember, she's a West Indian player. And the kind of support that could have been given to her had things been better advertised. We never know. But just let's support our people. The commentator was saying that she was getting frustrated, trying to hit the ball too hard. I was not able to pace the field. But she tried. And I want to say congratulations to her and continue giving it her best effort. But playing at home and hardly anybody knowing about these matches, she could not have gotten the optimum support that might have spurred her on some more. But be it what it is, we just hope for improvement from the administration of our cricket. Is already on a downward slide. And it seems as if we have resigned our efforts to just bring it alive in CPL time. So we put on all the stadium, big investment, just for CPL. Nothing else supposed to take place outside of CPL. Now we got to put in the energy. If it is beyond you, you're overwhelmed, you lack creativity, your ideas run out, just hand it over to somebody else. Hand it over. You can't invest so much money in a stadium like that and underutilizing it. We are hoping that things could improve. Another sporting issue that I would like to touch on is the recently completed TDC sponsored inter-school track and field. I took my time and went through several races, looked at them, and I think we have some good potential around here. Very good potential. But the problem we have sometimes is, where do they go from here? You're in school, you perform, you might break a record or two, do some personal best. But then after that, what happens to our young athletes? It is just disastrous. We claim to have clubs, and that is good. But the turnout to the club championships throughout the years, the athletes are who are seen there supporting each other. Hardly have anybody who is not competing at the stadium to cheer on people. Club championships, I don't know where they're going. And it's years now, years upon years. The best thing we have is inter-school. And the frightening thing is, after we would have seen those children perform so nicely at the inter-school, where do they make the next step? Usually we lose them. Because in the inter-school, I think maybe they should have it renamed. Inter-school and youth championship. Because inter-school will suggest that you have to be attending school. You have some persons who would go on to CFBC. I saw that CFBC had representation. But my question, I don't know, I might have to ask somebody. The Navy sixth form. The Navy sixth form is over on the same compound as, my understanding, as Charleston Secondary School. Is it safe to say that persons from the Navy sixth form were competing for Charleston Secondary School? Because I can recall when I attended sixth form, it was part of Bassier High School. And when they had inter-school, we represented Bassier High School. So you had persons who might have come up from Sandy Point High, even Convent, but because we were attending sixth form and it was part of the Bassier High School structure, we represented Bassier High School. But now, the sixth form, Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, is separated from the Bassier High School. Then I am wondering, just like how the CFBC competes on its own and Bassier High would have its own structure, what happened to Nevis, Charleston Secondary and Nevis sixth form? I must ask a friend of mine over on Nevis how that they really go down. Whether they combine or something would have to be said. Because if CFBC competing on its own, Navy sixth form, somebody might say should compete as Navy sixth form. Somebody might say is one compound, just like our Bassier High School used to got the sixth form up there. I would like to hear the discussion concerning that, because I'm not any wiser as to whether there were representation from the Navy sixth form and the Charleston Secondary School's effort. It would be interesting But our club structures would have to improve. I understand that they have clubs splitting in two and three just to get the extra vote so that the persons in charge would come from a particular place. We can't do that. We can't have groups, clubs and sub clubs, and you need some genuinely strong clubs. They got 6 and 7 clubs. Sometimes you just need to absorb all of that into 2 or 3 clubs. You can do it strategically to see if you could have different clubs voting for you. So the leadership of the association would go in this particular direction. The clubs them hardly got structure. We could hardly get 4 proper clubs. We could hardly get 4 proper clubs in our federation. Quality, proper clubs that could take the mantle and transform the athletes coming from the secondary schools into genuinely competitive athletes. You don't want to get club membership where people in high school in Jamaica running way faster than our top athletes in the various clubs. No, that doesn't sound good. We have to look into that. The point I was trying to make was that persons who stop out of fifth form, maybe even younger than some persons who go to CFBC, they can compete in inter-school because they're not attending school, even though they are of that age. And that is why I think that they go up to under 20. I believe that persons should be encouraged to represent the last high school they attended for another 2 years. So those who go on to CFBC and could compete in inter-school, those who stop from Bastia High, Washi, Sandy Point, Sadlers, they can still represent their schools for 2 more years. Many persons had to stop from school to try and generate income for their family. Some persons can do without. Some persons would like to go CFBC, but maybe what they want is not offered there, so they're holding out for a 2-year period before they travel overseas. So what should stop our athletes from getting an opportunity to compete? Or at the inter-school, they could develop what you call unattached. Unattached. Obviously, they would be outnumbered by the various schools. So they could get a chance to compete and be up for selection for Carifta. It could be so heartbroken for some of them to know that they're no longer attending a secondary school. But persons who attend in CFBC, their age and even older, could compete in inter-school, and they cannot get an opportunity to do that. Put them in a club or put them unattached. You could get sufficient of them to inform a relay team. If you don't think that is a wise move, then let them represent their last high school for another 2 years. I think for football, maybe cricket, when Bastia High used to really be big in football. We got them with our drums and we knock and we support the guys them. The guys them could have played for, I wonder boy, if they could have played for school maybe a year after. I'm not absolutely certain. But we had persons in school who were so great at football that the first division teams were ready for, when I say first division, it's not like Premier Division like what we have now. It was first and second division. The guys then were ready to play first division football. And then you had issues with some of them who decided they ain't playing for school because school was not a first division team. Even though they might have come close to going over in the first division, last year it was never a first division team. And as such, the guys wanted to play first division football. And Newtown and the various clubs around got those guys to practice with them, and some people had to get licks and all sort of stuff. Because it was said once you come in school, you have to play for school. And I don't know if they ever did reach a decision that you could have played second division for school, first division, because they're mutually exclusive, so to speak, in terms of coming up against each other. Even though you might have a player playing first division and second division, there was never a chance for that individual to choose in a match who he's going to play for because they were mutually exclusive. Yeah, and that is what we need. The Tinney, the Oliver Hanley, the Lester Hewlett, the Shakespeare, the Yulee, all those guys were just, yeah, Audley Pemberton, Sabo. Yeah, those guys were super footballers. So we have to find a way to capture our sportsmen and women who complete high school and looking to take another step. Our female athletes seem to just have evaporated. And I mean at the club level. You see a lot of them at the school level, but we really don't know what is going on, and maybe we need a retreat to see what could happen. And then, of course, you had the unfortunate incident over on Nevis with this fighting. Many persons are still charged to produce reports, give an account, but it was very, very unfortunate that we would have had an outbreak of physical altercation over by the sports there. We had situations where I think I would have read some principal's report or post indicating that a particular athlete was unfairly treated by the officials who might have been partial to a school or a set of schools or an island. And that wasn't nice at all. You don't demoralize a person in this day and age where you have video clips showing you an entire race. And if you claim that somebody elbowed somebody and the race was perused, the video taping was perused, and there's absolutely no indication of that, some ulterior motive would have had to supersede your objectivity and the facts, because It was never seen. Yes, sometimes we have evening international. You have a few bodies hitting here and there. Because if you have a number of persons in a race, and there's a point in time where you have to cut through, so to speak, everybody will be hustling to do that. As a matter of fact, some persons might have gotten spiked, go through the track shoes, spike them, could be on your leg, could be on your heel, could be on your instep. Those unfortunate situations do occur sometimes. But I will just be quiet about the fight issue until I would have convinced myself that I have sufficient information to talk about it a little bit more. But it was just not a good sight. And to me, it went on for too long. I think when they have meets like that, but I don't even know if it would be another time, because I would have gathered from a lot of Kittish parents that neither them or their children going back Newrish to compete in anything. But in the heat of the moment, a lot of things would be said. And if it reaches a stage there, it would be very, very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. And I'm just wondering about the timing, though, of the fixing of the track. Maybe it was a situation that forced us to try the multi-island competition, inter-school competition. Maybe outside of the fight, it might have gone on well. I'll have to talk to some athletes about the accommodations, the moving around, and everything before I can feel comfortable with having sufficient information to give it another go. But it was unfortunate, ought not to have happened. And despite it happening, ought not to have lasted for such a long period of time. We're hoping that we can get it right. But I personally believe, though, that the sporting environment with St. Kitts and Nevis is a bit bitter from a very long time. There were times when you had reports that after a cricket match, Kittitians, cricketers, them were stoned. You know, and that was way back. We can't afford for those times to come back. It is a fact too that St. Kitts playing against Antigua and Divisions supporting Antigua. But sometimes if you know the whole history of it, when St. Kitts was part of the Leeward Island tournament, Nevis wanted to come in. They did not have the strength as yet. And I think that when they made a big go for it, it was Antigua who supported their quest. St. Kitts was not so much in favor, so I'm told. So as a result of that, you find Nevis and Antigua we get along much better when it comes to sports than St. Kitts and Nevis. The confusing thing, however, is that you have Antigua and Barbuda. They would have one cricket team. But you have St. Kitts and Nevis that who's supposed to be one. They have two cricket teams. You have certain competitions, sporting competitions, where the federation team, I think the Olympics, a federation team. But yet, the islands them compete against each other in other sports. I think a decision would have to be made. If St. Kitts want their own team, Nevis, just get the Republic of St. Kitts, the Republic of Nevis. And then we don't have to have this headache as to when you combine the two islands as a team and when they compete separately. You would not have to have all of that. Or, in every sport, it must be St. Kitts and Nevis. Don't care if it's Leeward Island level. So you got Antigua and Barbuda one team, Mount Shot one team, and Anguilla one team, and St. Kitts and Nevis one team. But they might want to expand it so that you get more matches. But when you try to do that, you deviate from the norm. And the statistical distribution would no longer be the bell-shaped normal curve. You got deviation, one deviation, two deviations. We have to make up our minds. Cannot be saw today and the next way tomorrow. We're confusing people. Who cannot make the team cannot make the team. Just that. If you pick a cricket team and 8 players would have to come from Nevis. The 8 players come from Nevis. You pick a football team. How many times we used to get St. Kitts Nevis football team? And that's a part of the foolishness again. St. Kitts Nevis football team competing as one. But the St. Kitts cricket team and the Nevis cricket team competing as separate entities. But we need to get it right. We seem to be one confused set of people. We need to get it right. How many times we had a football team with not even one division on that team? You're talking about national football team. You still got a team with eight Newtown persons playing on the team. That used to happen. So our sporting act need to be fixed. We have to know what we are doing. I don't know what the time frame was for the completion of the Kim Collins Stadium. But we need to have discussions like that. I think that the minister at one point in time was outlining time frame and developments, but maybe we need to hear it a little more often. Then the St. Kitts Nevis Amateur Athletic Association would have to, I don't even know, I see in SK, St. Kitts Nevis Athletics. I don't know if that is a change in something. It used to be St. Kitts Nevis Athletic Association. SKN AAA. St. Kitts Nevis Amateur Athletic Association, but now we're hearing about SKNA, St. Kitts Nevis Athletics. I'll have to find out something about that. But there must be a meeting. People must be able to vent. And this thing must be remedied as quick. Get all the pertinent parties, all the stakeholders. You see, but tempers could flare too, but if you got security and you have the meetings and things get ironed out, they could work out whether or not events would be taken over to Nevis next inter-school. They can't wait until it's just around the corner. Like we have a time frame for the Kim Collins Stadium to be completed. I don't believe they're going to take a whole year from today. So if it is completed and you're planning the next inter-school, they'll have to work out if the schools will be willing to go back over. And likewise, if it is said that the St. Kitts schools are not willing, Charlestown and Gingerland might be able to say that they're not going down either. And then you might get the thought that, look, if you don't come down, you cannot be part of the St. Kitts Nevis Carifta team. There's a whole heap of stuff that they would need to remedy now. No. Can't wait till it's too late. And I wish our athletes well at the upcoming Carifta Games. I had my student there in class today, Akanye Samuel Francis. I wished him well. I think he would have done qualifying times in the 400 meters hurdle, the 110 meters hurdle, and I think the 400 and the 100. But at the Carifta, it is my understanding that he's going to do just the hurdle, the 110 hurdle and the 400 meters hurdle. So we wish him well. Remember that he was our gold medal winner from last Carifta. So we'll see what happens this year. I realize that inter-school is a bit differently constructed to the Carifta. Carifta is under 17. Is under 17 and under 20? I believe so. So even if you're 15, you got to run under 17. Some clarity on that is needed, but I think that is the way it is constructed. But for inter-school, we got under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20. Basically 4 categories, I think. Under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20. However, I think Carifta is under 17 and under 20. Just 2 categories. Maybe some races might be open, so you could send in whether under 17 or under 20. But we'll see what happens. I think it is next weekend. I think it is next weekend, if my memory serves me correctly. We should be able to look at it. In the interim, you can do Zoom calls and encourage our athletes out there. And I would like to say congratulations to Sems Eagles for winning the 8th championship in a row. And I don't know if it is 29 in all. That's a kind of technical thing there, you know. That 29 in all that Sandy Point boasts of is a kind of technical thing. And let me explain it. I'm happy for them. I always admire the participation you have coming out of the Sandy Point High School, Charles E. Mills Secondary School, SEMS. Now, back then, Sandy Point had always had first form, second form, third form, fourth form, fifth form. 5 forms. So regardless of what category, you have under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20. Bastia High, the main competition. Bastia High used to start from third form. So most times you would not have persons, maybe the odd time you might have persons under 14. But we started third form, fourth form, fifth form, 3 forms. But as we would have missed out on the first and second formers, we had 6B and 6A, where you had persons coming from various schools to attend sixth form on the compound of the Bastia Senior High School. So we missed out on the first and second forms, and we picked up a bit because some of those guys, when they reached sixth form, they didn't want to continue taking part in sports. Some of them didn't want to compete against the former schools. So it was a little mix-up. But I think that Sandy Point would have had the edge for quite a number of years with the first and second formers, whereas Bastia High are just third, fourth, and fifth. Then eventually, several years down, Bastia High was combined with Bastia Junior High, that is the Park Range compound. So you had first form, second form, third form, fourth form, and fifth form. But that was several years after. But whatever it is quite a feat to have won so many championships, regardless of the structuring of the meet. But then to even have it 8 consecutive times when the playing field is more level, then that too is quite a feat. And it would appear as if they might go on to 10 peat. It is left to be seen. You used to have some good competition between Bastia High and Sandy Point High. Carry on used to chip in occasionally, but they could not sustain the competition as much as Bastia and Sandy Point. I had a good friend, God bless his soul, Sonnyman Woods. I can recall competing against him. And we used to make fun out of it. When I was in class 1, Sonnyman was competing in class 2. And Sonnyman was older than I was. I found it a bit strange and we had a laugh at it, but I just found it a bit awkward. How could you not know? How could you really not know? But then we went off to represent St. Kitts in Antigua, a combination of Bastia High athletes and mostly Sandy Point, Denison Paul, Lucian Joseph, I don't even know if Rocky was there, Big T was there, Clifton, Isaac. Yeah, we had the senior guys them too. So there's always a coming together. But the youngsters them of this period, they have a lot of competitions to be seen by scouts and get their scholarships. Sometimes you might start out as an athlete, you get a scholarship, but when you reach out there, you realize, look, I just want to focus on my academics. This was a way for me to get a free education, a scholarship. Some persons try hard to continue. We had some athletes out there for several years. Well, you would have heard their names occasionally. But the problem is that sometimes you had athletes out there on athletic scholarship, and you never heard any great achievement from them from the athletics, nor did they go on to do much academically. And that is where the blunder really is. You go out there and you realize, look, I could get injured, or I would have gotten injured, and you push your energy now down the academics. Or if you go out there and you're really making the times, and you feel like you can eventually generate income, Jason Rogers, for example, then you do what you have to do. But at some point in time, where Kim Collins, of course, some point in time you must realize that the athletic part is coming to an end, and I need to focus a little bit more on the academics, because I need to come back home and find me a job and whatever else. So it's a very sensitive thing to take part in, because as an athlete, you represent your country. Your time, your active time in the sport might be cut short. Kim Collins went through for many years, and I feel though that there could have been a benefit designed for Kim Collins and persons who might come along in the future and be thus categorized. That some kind of benefit could be had. Just like how you have persons getting gratuity and other stuff. You know, the age of an athlete is about 35, 36, 37, 35, 40. Somebody should be able to, an athlete supposed to be able to retire and get some benefits coming his way, a more sustained benefit, or set of benefits. And then maybe you'll get persons gravitating to the area of sports, knowing that if they get injured or the time comes to an end, then they can rely on something. Because sometimes some persons are so highly specific in the sporting department. It's like you work at a factory for a lot of years, you didn't get time out to learn another trade, whatever you do. And that's where severance pay and so would come in, for you to give yourself some time to retool, whether by way of acquisition of knowledge or acquisition of a skill, so you can fit in somewhere else. That's why severance benefits are paid. And likewise, an athlete who comes to the end of his time, something should be there to parallel such situation and show our appreciation a little bit more for our athletes. Okay, well, we have come to the end of our session for tonight. I guess the gentleman who was supposed to call in and give, maybe he waiting until next week when Shahid is here with me, so we could have homogeneous discussion around the same central theme. But we are hoping that the government will be sensitive to persons who were disadvantaged when they were incarcerated, and one of the cases there should be some negotiation and compensation be given, and not adopt the mindset of the late Attorney General Vincent Josie Byron, that if you were to compensate everybody who would have gone down to the court and won the case, then the economy, the justice system will come to grinding halt. That is so unfortunate. All our police will have to do is be most careful in gathering the evidence and everything, and make sure that the government would not lose, and as a result would not have to pay any compensation. But you can't make those unguarded statements, unbridled statements, and say not everybody you could compensate. But if everybody suffer, everybody will have to be compensated. That was quite a statement that is filled with folly and some kind of don't care about people perception. 20 people got on, and you had 15 of them winning the cases. You must only compensate 3 or 4. That's surgically discriminated against the others. And maybe it was a divine intervention when things happen, that the insensitive part of that person was buried, and buried for good. Well, let us stop there, and we just hope that things will roll along how they're supposed to roll along. All the best to our, I think we have another Thursday, or is next weekend they're having the Kawifta. Whatever it is, all the best, and once again, congratulations to SEMS Eagles, also to Charlestown Secondary, and I think it was Basia High in third. Washi was in fourth, and all the schools that took place, and even those who did not do so well, we are hoping that persons would be more willing to work harder and represent the secondary schools. Good night, and enjoy what is left of your rest of Thursday.
The opinions and statements made by the host and participants in this program are not those of the owners, advertisers, and management company of Sugar City FM 90.3, nor are such statements necessary and management company of Sugar City FM 90.